Are you all set up and cozy? Have you all got a cup of tea? Yeah, perfect. I've actually got an electric heated blanket because it's so cold. Isn't it ridiculous? It's like autumn again. Um, so as you will have seen from my emails, maybe the idea around this is to give you guys some space and time to a break, I guess, a break from the kind of madness and frantic energy that is the end of term always, and B, to kind of really feel into and get clarity around what it is about the summer holiday that maybe leaves some tension in your body or makes you feel overwhelmed just at the thought of it, or is just niggling you and worrying you a little bit. And some of those you will already have a very clear idea of, I'm sure. And there might be more to uncover. So we will see in this session. Journaling, I know all of you have done before. So, but just for other people who are on the replay, there is no pressure to write reams and reams of information. If you prefer to journal in bullet points, that's okay. The important thing is just to keep the pen moving. And to just allow whatever needs to come up. So if it feels like you've gone off on a tangent, don't berate yourself and try and bring yourself back to what the question was. See where that tangent takes you, because that might be really important information for you just now. So there's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 questions ranging from 1-minute intervals to 3-minute intervals. Some are just short, sharp, what do you think of this? And some are a little bit more detailed. And then after we've journaled, we'll look back at those journal prompts and we can share anything that feels important, or you can ask questions about anything that you would love some ideas and support with. Does that sound okay? Okay, so without further ado, if it feels all right to you, I mean, you're welcome to turn your camera off if you want to kind of be in your own space and just chill. Feel very free to turn your camera off. But it's also lovely to have you here if you want to stay. So I'd invite you just now just to settle into the chair that you're sitting in. And what I mean by that is just start to notice the support it's giving you. Notice your back against the chair. I've shut my eyes because I find it easier to notice things when my eyes are shut. So just notice your back against the chair, your bottom and the tops of your legs against the chair. Notice how wherever you're sitting is supporting you. The points of contact between what you're sitting on and your body. Maybe notice your feet on the floor. Maybe notice the feeling of your feet against your socks or your slippers or shoes, or just the ground underneath you. And take a moment just to settle and repeat in your mind: nowhere to go, nothing to do, no one to become. Nowhere to go, nothing to do, no one to become. Just in this moment. Nowhere to go, nothing to do, no one to become. And when the next out breath comes, see if you can extend it by a couple of seconds. Really make sure all the air is emptied out, and then just allow the in-breath to come. And again, just exhaling in an extended way and allowing the inhale to come. Okay. We will start doing some journaling. So pens in your hands. Any tension in your shoulders, try and kind of wiggle out. There's nothing needs to happen now. If nothing comes to you, that's okay. Just see if you can keep your pen moving on the page, even if it's, I'm not sure what to write. So the first question is, what parts of being with your child or children feel good in your body when you think about them? And that's in relation to the summer holidays. So when you think about the summer holidays, what parts of being with your child or your children maybe add an openness to your body, a fizziness and excitement. You can kind of feel the love in your heart swelling. What feels good? And you're going to write for 2 minutes on that. If you need me to repeat questions at any point, just say. So what parts of being with your child or children over the summer feel good in your body when you think about them? Okay, that's 1 minute left. About 10 seconds left. Finishing the sentence that you're on or the phrase that you're on. Okay. Oh, and stop him. Okay. The next part of that question is there a way of adding more of these moments or situations or connections into your plans? Is there a way of adding more of these moments or connections or activities into your plans? And it's just 1 minute for that one. About 30 seconds left. And finishing up the sentence or bullet point or phrase that you're on. Okay, and having a look at your answers to both of those and just highlighting, underlining, boxing out anything that stands out to you as being significant, important, that feels good. Maybe something that feels tricky, maybe it didn't go in the direction of what feels good, maybe yours went into what doesn't feel good. Just giving you a minute to do that. The next one is a 3-minute question, and it is, when you're thinking about the summer holidays, what parts make you feel drained, overwhelmed, or anxious? When you're thinking about the summer holidays, what parts make you feel drained, overwhelmed, or anxious, and why? So I'll do that one again. When you're thinking about the summer holidays, what parts make you feel drained, overwhelmed, or anxious, and why? Starting now. Just over 1 minute left. And finishing the sentence, phrasal point that you're on. Okay, and this one's just a 1 minute one. Do you have to do these things? Are they absolutely necessary? And why? Do you have to do these things? Are they absolutely necessary? And why? Just 1 minute. Okay, just finishing up. And again, going back through those last two questions, or question with two parts, and just underlining, boxing out, highlighting anything that feels important or that's repetitive or that stands out for some other reason. Okay, the next question is a 3 minute one, and it is, if they are necessary, which some things are, what support could you put in place to make them feel more manageable? If they are necessary, what support could you put in place, if any, to make them feel more manageable? If they are necessary, what support could you put in place, if possible, to make them feel more manageable? Starting now. Just over a minute left. Okay, just finishing the part that you're on. And when you've done that, going back through that part and those notes and highlighting, boxing out, underlining anything that feels helpful, important, salient. Okay, and the last, if everyone's ready, the last question for this session, there's a bit of a preface to it. So we often have high expectations and aspirations for ourselves and our children over the summer holidays. We often have high expectations and aspirations for ourselves and our children over the holidays. And we have to bear in mind the realities of our own and our children's capabilities and capacity. And we have to bear in mind the realities of our own and our children's capabilities and capacities. So the question is, where could I be more realistic with my expectations? What desire or pressure can I give myself permission to let go of? So there's two parts. Where could I be more realistic with my expectations? What desire or pressure can I give myself permission to let go of? Has everyone got that? Okay. And I'll start 3 minutes. Okay, just over a minute left. Just finishing up the sentence or bullet point that you're on. And just heading back through that part of the journaling, and again underlining or boxing out anything that felt important. When you've done that, have a big stretch. Well done. Have a wiggle in your chair, roll your shoulders, stretch your neck, come back into a, I don't know, come out of the zone, I guess. So, has anyone got anything they feel like would be helpful to share, or anything that surprised them, or anything they found interesting about that? Julia, you look like you might.
Yeah, I made a list of all the things that I would love doing, and then the things that worried me. And the thing that worries me most, which happens every time Emmy's on holiday, is that she's really bored. And then every time I suggest, let's do this, she'll say no. You know, she says no to everything, and it's just very frustrating. So for me, the perfect holiday would be to do nothing. But I feel like I can't do nothing because she's bored, even when I'm suggesting things to do. And I'm also worried about how much television she'll want to watch and how much I'll give into, because I just can't.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, because actually for you, it's helpful for her to be watching TV at times. So it's
It is, yeah.
Yes, Julia. So big realizations. And did you come to any conclusions about any of them?
Not really, because I don't feel like there's any things that I can let go.
Mm.
And the thing that I want for her is to have a rest over the summer.
Mm.
And, you know, my dream things to do would be to be out in nature and, you know, go swimming and have picnics and, you know, do some nice things.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with those. And the pressures on me are just really keeping everything going. And I can't say that I don't have to do that.
No, no, absolutely. And I know in your situation, there's not lots of family support around you either. The pressure really is on you to do that. When Emmy says that she's bored, do you get a sense of what that means for her? Does it genuinely mean I'm bored?
I don't think so. I don't know what is
Mm.
behind that, because,
Mm.
you know,
Do you know the situations that it tends to come up in when she says I'm bored?
I don't know. It just suddenly started being a thing.
Mm.
She picked it up from someone.
Yeah.
And it's a certain tone in which she says it, which is really,
Oh, and it really goes
yeah,
for you. Mm-hmm.
yeah. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
it's usually at the weekend. Maybe she's tired,
Mm.
or she's sad, or I don't know.
Mm. I wonder if you could play around with, just when she says I'm bored, noticing that tension within yourself, because that's important to notice that and kind of soothe that within yourself. Like, oh, here it is again.
Mm-hmm.
Notice what it brings up in you around guilt, around feeling a pressure to then entertain her or do something. And just allow those parts to be there if you can. I mean, I'm assuming those are the kind of things that come up in you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just notice that they're there and kind of say to yourself, these feel real, but they might not be true. I might not have to entertain her. That might not be what she's asking for. And this guilt you know, feels real, but again, isn't necessarily true. I don't have to feel guilty about this. You know, she's got lots of things in her life that bring her lots of pleasure. She's actually very lucky having you one-to-one. You know, often the pressure with siblings is the opposite, is that kind of torn between, oh God, which one do I give attention to? So actually, yes, there's pros and cons to being a single child or having a sibling, but the pro is she gets you all to herself, and that's lovely. My other wondering about bored, so firstly, bring it back to yourself, centering, what is this? Can I soothe myself? How can I be kind to myself in this moment? Because this feels really horrible and hard. And secondly, and it might not be in the moment, but maybe later on, think about, and you're great at this because you're so intuitive and insightful, what was going on? What do you think that the bored actually meant? Because when children say I'm bored, it often is a multitude of things. It might mean I'm bored, but it might also mean, oh, I need connection, you know, or I've got a funny feeling inside me and I'm not sure what to do about it. Or it might mean I don't know how to get started.
Yeah.
Or it might mean that I actually feel overwhelmed by the choices of things that I could do, and I need it narrowed down into that for me. So have a play within your mind of what does bored mean, Emmy? Because when
actually, now that you've been talking, I wonder if it means that she's lonely and she wants other children. I think that's probably what it could be. Often in the summer, we go days without her playing with other children. It's so sad. But yes,
that's the reality of your
difficult
situation.
to organize sometimes. When we're in Austria, I don't know that many people with children there.
Yeah.
And sometimes my friends are on holiday, and so it could be that. But then I need to find a solution for that.
If you take her places, does she form friendships? Is she still at an age where she'll kind of go up to children and join in with their games, or she kind of hangs back?
She's too shy.
Yeah. So that's tricky. So it doesn't, even if you took her to the park or something, it wouldn't
Takes
be
her a long time. Yeah, she will with younger children. She feels more confident. And she'll go and help them, and older or children of the same age.
Lovely. Yeah, that's interesting. So it might even be worth taking her to a park and just seeing what happens. Because even just being around other children might be enough for her, rather than her even having to interact with them.
Yeah.
Just the kind of energy. But yeah, I hear you. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's really insightful. Yeah. Anyone else got anything that they wanted to share?
Mine very, very similar to you, Julia. The screen time for me is a big one. I know we always fall into the trap of that, and then that just doesn't actually help in the end because overstimulates and makes them go a bit loopy. And then the expectation that my eldest will have such an expectation in his mind that this is the summer holidays. Oh, this is what we've been waiting for all year. This is the big one. This is going to be the best. And then actually, it's not that great. That expectation that he puts on it, that it's got to be really good. And he'll say he's bored a lot as well. And that is, I think, to do with not having enough social interactions. What else did I put down? And then on the flip side, the counting down towards September. He'll start thinking about that within like the second week. That's my main worry, and usually is my main worry, that we're already on to, oh gosh, it's nearly over. And that's possibly another bit around that, saying he's bored. It's that he's panicking.
Yes, it's anxiety.
And I've got this time, I'm not using it, and what do I do? And I've wasted the time that I've been looking forward to. There's a lot of pressure.
There is so much pressure, isn't there? And I'm hearing that he puts it on himself, and that's really hard to deal with, because you know, with the best will in the world, saying to a child who's putting that pressure on themselves, don't put so much pressure on yourselves, you know, we don't have to think. Doesn't work, does it?
Doesn't work. And his our response to that would be, you don't understand how much this is, you know, how much I'm feeling, or how much this is upsetting me. You don't get it.
Yeah, absolutely. And what can be helpful to remember in this situation is the 3 C's of peaceful parenting: the center, the connect, and the communicate. And they have to follow in that order. But often we jump from problem to communication. So we don't check in with what's going on for us and what we might be bringing to the situation that might not necessarily be true, and tending to that and saying, oh God, this, you know, I've got guilt around this, I constantly feel guilt about this. Or, you know, when he says that, I start panicking because I don't want him to have a meltdown, I don't want him to spiral, I don't want this to happen. So the first is coming back to yourself, knowing that, unless, you know, it's that tricky not tragic thing again as well, is that this is tricky not tragic. You know, no one's wielding a knife, no one's got a sibling in a headlock and they're turning purple. You know, no one's really suffering in this moment. To feel lonely, to feel bored, to feel apprehensive and anxious are all human. And the point is not to not let your child feel those things. So then the connection is, can I just be with them in this? So it might be, rather than going into, okay, so what should we do if the boredom thing comes up? What can we do? What about this, or what about that? Or you loved doing that yesterday. Rather than buying into what they're saying, is trying to connect with the emotion underneath and just bringing them into you and saying, ugh, boredom feels yucky, doesn't it? Oh, does your boredom want to come and sit with me and have a cuddle for a minute? Bring them in, just see if helping them to be with that emotion can bring something. And then after a moment, you might say something like, you know what I wonder about emotion, I wonder about boredom does it actually mean that you're about to do something really creative? Because the most creative ideas come from being bored. So I'm excited. I know it feels hard, but I'm excited to see what you come up with. So try not to fix it for them. Try to see what they can come up with themselves. And that might feel really hard. And you might, for the first few attempts, it might end in, I don't know, oh, this is awful. Bear in mind, you haven't caused that feeling. That feeling probably needed to come out. That was probably the tension that was brewing in them, that actually when you set that kind of soft wall, that, okay, I hear that you're, you know, the soft is, I empathize with you. It's really hard to feel bored. It's really hard to not have other children around all the time, and for it to be us together all the time, or the majority of the time. That's really difficult. And I'm not going to fix it for you. I'm excited to see what you come up with. I wonder what's going to happen. If the emotion comes up, remember that is not, you haven't caused that needed to come up. So just staying with that emotion and allowing it to be there. The other thing to remember is, when a child is bored and nothing you say is right, if that feels like what's happening, you know, you could say, well, let's go to Thorpe Park, or let's go to the zoo, and they'd still be like, no, that's not what I want to do. That is because there's a stuck emotion. So whenever you're trying to fix a problem for a child and they're coming back to you with a constant no, and there's this whiny tone to them, it's because there's a stuck emotion. So the best thing you can do is hold a boundary and be compassionate at the same time. I hear that, and you're going to come up with something yourself. I hear that, and we've got loads of games over here. Go and choose one. I hear that, and the options are, we can go to the park, or we can do some painting. Those are the options. What you'll notice, if the big feeling can come out, that afterwards they are able to access their creativity, and they go back to being this kind of lovely little bundle that you know and find so much joy from. Screen time is a tricky one. I would say be really kind to yourselves. The world that we live in at the moment, especially when we are trying to work, run a household, do a million other things, does dictate that screen time is actually really helpful. Also bear in mind that most of us were brought up on a lot of screen time. That was the babysitter for many of us. So what the kind of research shows is the best thing you can do is equal out the amount of screen time with some movement. So if they've been on a screen for an hour's movement, it doesn't have to be all at once, but an hour's movement. So just kind of bear that in mind. And the reason for that is because when they are sitting looking at a screen, then it's not that they are necessarily resting internally, because there's lots of cortisol and adrenaline pinging round from the pings and dings and dopamine hits from the excitement. That's got nowhere to go when they're sitting still. So the movement helps their body to process that, which is why the movement is really helpful. So don't beat yourselves up about it. Just be balanced about it, okay? And be balanced over the course of the holidays. If there's a day where they spend 5 hours watching a screen, just know that there will be days where they're out all day as well. So that is balancing it out in itself. Be kind to yourselves about that. Does that help, Sam? Little. Becky, did you have anything you wanted to share?
Yeah, I think obviously, yeah, screen time's a major issue here as well, but I think for me it's the sibling rivalry, the fighting. You know, they're 5 years different, boy and girl. They're so jealous of any time that I spend with one of them. You know, it's constant. And it's also finding stuff to do that they both want to do. It's
both of them.
I find I also have to balance. And my daughter's at the age where she's on Snapchat, she's on TikTok, you know, she's talking to her friends and she's seeing what everyone else is doing, and there's this massive expectation of like, well, my friend's just gone here for the week, and this, you know, it's like this, she wants to keep up with everyone else. I'm like, I can't afford to take you out every day and go shopping every day and do this and that. It's, you know, I have to work a lot over the summer, so I've got to balance that. I'm also not making money, and she's just, you know, you see all this social media world where everyone's got these perfect summer holidays and they're all doing this. I'm like, no, we need to go and have a picnic, or we need to make our own entertainment. I can't afford to take you out in that. She's always like, oh, it's not fair. Oh, yeah. I hate you. And it's difficult, you know, but as I said, trying to do something with the two of them is so difficult because they're so different. Yeah, and even meeting up with friends, you know, they don't have the same friends, so we're seeing my little boy's friends. My daughter's like, oh, it's not fair, who's seeing his friends. It's just a constant battle to try and keep them both happy and try and just not fight all day.
Yeah, that sounds like an awful lot of pressure for you, Becky. An awful lot of different moving targets that you're having to try and balance out in your week, as well as having to work as well. Something that can be helpful over the holidays is planning your week in advance a little bit. And I know that's not always easy to do, but the routine can be quite helpful. So it could be on Mondays we go to, you're not going to do this with the age your children are at necessarily, but the library, okay? On Tuesdays we go to the supermarket. Now kids actually quite often quite like going to the supermarket because it's a rarity these days that we go, and they often get to choose something that they like, so there's that incentive in there. On Wednesdays we go swimming. Having a kind of routine helps you to feel like, oh God, what am I going to do this week? That kind of gets taken away. And also it helps them to just know what you're going to be doing, and that there's then less questions about it. There's more acceptance about, okay, on Mondays we do go to the library and then we get a milkshake afterwards, or whatever it is. And on Tuesdays we do this. The other thing that can be really helpful is talking about wants and needs, okay, and helping them to get to understand what the difference between a want and a need is. So if you're looking at the week ahead, so say on a Sunday you sit down, the 3 of you or the 4 of you, and you talk about, firstly, what are the needs for the week? So it might be there's a dentist appointment that needs to happen. It might be that you need to go and get new school shoes. It might be that family members are coming to visit. Those are the needs for the week. And you get them involved in putting it on, you know, diarising it, putting it on a calendar, a big sheet of paper or something. And then everybody gets to say their wants for the week. what would you really want to happen, you know? What would be so lovely within the realm, you know? And the important thing there is, don't discard anything, even if it feels ridiculous, even if it's, I want to go to Mauritius, you know, that's just never going to happen. Be like, oh my God, really? The other thing that can be helpful to remember in that is, when your daughter is giving you these huge desires and these huge wants, often our reaction is to try and bring them down to earth, and because we feel a sense of guilt, a sense of maybe I'm not good enough, maybe this, you know, ugh. And then we also feel this, like, for goodness sake, I give you everything, you know, you do get a lot of stuff, you don't understand how expensive these things are, you're not in, you know, you're not living in reality. So we go into trying to bring their expectation down, but we could just join them in their desire. That's the connection part of the 3 C's. Joining her in her desire. Oh my God, it would be so lovely to go to Mauritius. Can you imagine? You know, we'd be sipping on coconuts, we'd be in the sea, swimming with the turtles. Oh my God. And maybe have a pot or an envelope of these ideas that she would love to happen, or you as a family would love to happen. And don't discount them, just say, well, let's put that in there and see if one day we can make that dream happen, because that would be so cool. Because sometimes just feeling heard in our desire is enough to kind of go, okay, well, I know it's not going to happen, but at least I feel really like mum's on board with my desire. That feels really cool. And then so then when you're mapping out your week, you put your wants in first, and then you try and give everybody one want for the week, sorry. So, you know, for her, it might be you're going to Wickham shopping one day and she visits Zara or whatever feels amazing to her. And for your son, it might be that he goes to the park and plays football with his friends. And see if you can just make sure, because then again, in advance, they feel like they're getting a desire, and it might just stop that constant asking for stuff.
Yeah, it's got a bit of control as well, isn't it, for them, I suppose? Like
Totally.
they do, because they are going to be farmed out to grandparents.
Yeah.
Well, there are day camps my son's got to go to, which they have with. So I suppose having that control and a bit of like freedom. And we're also going to be on the countdown. Like, we're on the countdown. My daughter's on the countdown at the moment to finish. She's certainly been on the countdown. I'll be going back in September. So it's kind of that as well.
So you get it. Thank you so much for being so vulnerable and honest with your sharings today. I hope that's been helpful. There was one more thing that I just wanted, that just felt when I was creating the journaling prompts this week, I kept getting this sense of me needing to share with you about bearing in mind your capacity, okay, and trying to marry your capacity with their wants and desires. And what I mean by that is, you know, if you're organising play dates, because the 6 weeks is a long stretch, okay, you have got to try and not be burned out by the end of it. That's really important. So things like, for example, if they're having play dates, can you try and ensure that the child that's coming round isn't a child that drives you crackers, and that you're on edge because you know they're going to lead them into some mischief in the bathroom, squirting toothpaste all over the place? Can you try and make sure it's a child that actually you feel really comfortable with? Or if you've got if you're going somewhere with another family for the day, for example, can you try and make sure that the parent that you're going with is someone that you really like and that fills up your cup to some extent, or at least keeps it kind of level? So when you're thinking about activities you're doing, I know there's so much pressure to do, you know, not just from your children, but from outside expectations. You see other parents doing all these things, like taking a horde of children to Rush, you know, oh, I'll just take everyone's kids to Rush, it'll be absolutely fine. For you, that might feel absolutely horrendous because of the overstimulation, the noise, the smell, the responsibility of looking after everyone's kids. You are not the same person as those parents that can pick up 5 kids and take them to Rush on their own. You don't have to be. So just bear in mind that you don't have to be that person, and try and make sure when you're thinking about activities you're doing that they're either keeping you level in terms of your stress cup, they're kind of keeping it where it is to an extent, or they might actually be, you know, reducing the stress a little bit. So you've got someone tag teaming with you. It's somewhere that you really love going. You know, it might be some beautiful garden somewhere that you really like going. You might go to Clifton with them and they get to play in the park, but you get to go and see the rose garden, the water garden. You know, try and include yourself. And I know that's really hard because that often is conflicting with what your children want, but really try and see if there's a way that you can include yourself. It might even be that if you are going to Thorpe Park or somewhere that's going to completely jangle you, that you listen to the music you like in the car on the way there, even if that's like you've got one headphone in. Try and think of something that's going to soothe you in stressful situations. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Cool. So I'm aware we have run over. I knew I was going to do that. I can never stick to time. Does anybody have anything else before we finish today?
Thank you, Jenny. That was really brilliant.
Oh, good. I'm pleased it was helpful. I'm really pleased it was helpful. It was so gorgeous to be with you all. And I think I will do more of these in future if they felt good. So cool. See you soon, guys.
Thank you.
Take care.
See you.
Thanks, Jenny. Bye.